Joining us now for continue the conversation is U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer, Republican of North Dakota, obviously an oil and gas producing state, Senator, so I'm kind of guessing you can go with this. But having been to Williston, North Dakota in the middle of winter, it was 31 degrees below zero. I was there. We filmed this. People were eating at restaurants. You could not shut your gas car off because if you did, you were afraid that your battery would die. So people literally left their car running while they went into Walmart or shop because it was that cold. And I'm thinking, how is this going to work in Bismarck or Fargo or Williston?
Well, that's a great question, but we're also a big electricity producing state, as you can see from the transmission lines behind me, and there are lots of problems with this utopia, this EV utopia. And it starts with the rule we're talking about right now as evidence that they're putting all of this on the manufacturer. In other words, they're trying, Brian, to push a supply where a demand isn't ready, not even close to ready, particularly in the timelines and the degree to which they're proposing in this proposal. Maybe it is just a negotiating starting point, I think, to your point, as you hear from auto dealers and others, but there's so many problems with this, again, electric vehicle utopia. They're trying to settle climate change, or they're calling it climate change, but they're really pushing their favorite industry, and it's just not going to add up.
Well, they're going to probably fix the demand side problem by killing the other options, right? I mean, if you go into a restaurant and you got a choice between a burger and pasta, and you want the burger, and they say, well, Mr. Senator Cramer, sorry, we were out of the burger. Okay, I guess I'll have the pasta. I mean, that's kind of, it seems like where they're going. And by the way, and I've said it many times, I'm not an electric car hater. I think they're very cool. I'm looking to actually actively acquire one now myself. Sure. But I have the means and the ability, and a garage, by the way, to put in an expensive charger and have other gas-powered cars. I don't know what lower-income people are going to do.
Well, and that's exactly right, Brian. Your restaurant example would be more like you have a decision to make between a hamburger or a filet, and because the difference is about 3 times the cost. And so what do regular people do? Not to mention, again, cold weather people like I am. But you also have the entire supply chain issue. The vast majority of the critical minerals and rare earth minerals and whatnot that are required for the batteries and the technology to go into an electric vehicle aren't in the United States, or at least to the degree that they're not allowed to be mined by the same type of people that have this electric vehicle desire. So that means we become more dependent on China and outsourcing a very critical supply chain. Big problem.
And it's not just the supply chain, Senator. The one thing I was thinking about was, okay, let's say we go to this whole electric car future, and let's say it happens. California, going to outlaw new gas cars by 2035. I think it's going to create a huge black market for gas-powered cars. That aside, U.S. automakers and the UAW, they want to make a fair living wage. I think I've heard that from parts of the government, a fair living wage. It means you've got to charge X amount for your car in order to pay your people the living wage so they can get a house and send their kids to college. What I worry about is not just the supply chain, Senator, but the possibility that we could start importing $12,000 cheap Chinese electric cars. And pretty soon, it's not just the supply chain, it's the American automotive industry. Toyotas, many of them are made in Texas, has been now outsourced to Shanghai.
Well, and
they can make a car for a lot less than we can. A lot less.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And they can be made by people that don't have the same workplace standards as we have. For example, if you're going to rely on mining critical minerals with child labor in Africa, celebrating the vice president's recent visit to that continent to brag about such things, you look at even further hypocrisy. Obviously, this is a national security issue when you make us even more dependent on China for critical supply chains, and perhaps, to your point, the entire vehicle. And then on top of that, they want to subsidize it so that rich people can buy these vehicles from other countries. And again, none of it adds up. It's chaotic. It's not a holistic plan at all. If we want to have a serious adult discussion about it, I think we can have that discussion, but it has to be serious.
Yeah, and they use that fuzzy math. They say, oh, it's $12,000 less in ownership and maintenance costs. That is not including the battery. When the battery goes, those batteries are like $10,000 to $20,000. It's just, and
that's exactly right. And I believe the carbon intensity, Brian, the carbon intensity of an electric vehicle is not nothing. The life cycle carbon intensity is very, very great.
Yeah, I think the FT had it at only 17% less all in than a gas-powered car. So it is less, But just because you're spewing no stuff from your tailpipe, don't think that you're just driving around carbon-free, because you might be getting your power from a coal plant somewhere in, say, New Jersey. Senator, thank you. Appreciate it.